If Julianne Genter is held in contempt of Parliament, will you stand her down from her portfolio?
I guess we have to ask the question.
This is again not a particularly good response. The response here should be all options are on the table. We'll see what comes of the investigation. All options are on the table. But this is the one part of this conversation where Chloe does play a little of the political game, goes, well, we can't answer the hypotheticals. But the correct answer here would be something like, if that does happen, all options are on the table. End of conversation.
Held in contempt of Parliament, will you stand her down from her portfolio?
I guess we have to ask the question of what is the point that we're trying to get to here. Julianne is an incredibly knowledgeable and hard-working member of Parliament who has made massive contributions in the transport space, but none of that is to make any excuses for the behaviour which happened that Wednesday night in Parliament. So, look, if more things do end up being necessary as we work through this process, then we will work through
I
that.
mean, we've seen the behaviour. I mean, from what you've seen of the behaviour, I mean, it was a remarkable thing to witness in the House. Do you think that is worthy of stripping your MP of her portfolio?
Again, I think that they're completely incomparable situations. If
they're not really incomparable. I just read you a description and you thought it was Julianne Genter.
Jack,
again, I was talking to the fact.
But what I'm saying is that idea of saying all options are on the table is a way of saying that could be a possible outcome. What you're asking me, yes, it could possibly, but equally it may not be. It's quite a good way to be able to say, I'm not going to filibust here. I'm not going to say this is hypothetical. It's actually saying maybe we'll have to wait and see. Quite clearly, all options, Jack, will be on the table at the end of the investigation. That conversation is then finished, Chewie. Because what comeback can you have that? It's like, maybe you're right. Maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. All options are on the table.
Yeah,
done.
Take the heat out of the question. Yes.
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
Moving on.
Totally.
Rather than
you are
back,
talking
no,
about media descriptions.
I mean, look, they are actually, about as comparable as two events can be. I mean, we can maybe quibble over the time with which they took to accept fault and apologize.
Yeah, no, but see, that's not a quibble, Jack. That's quite a serious part of the nature. When you start off by defending yourself, and then what becomes is expedient to apologizing is actually very different from apologizing straight away and recognizing straight away. It's very, so it does actually, it's not a quibble, it's actually a serious part of the actual conversation.
I mean, we can maybe quibble over the time with which they took to accept fault and apologise, but I mean, that they are so comparable that you yourself thought that I was describing your own MP.
If I can bring you back to the core point, Julianne made a mistake. She messed up. She owned up to that.
And there should be consequences for those mistakes.
And there have been, Jack, through the likes of the public kind of, chastising that has occurred over the past few weeks.
That's a really good point.
Well, do you think that's a good point though? Because what they're saying is, should there be consequences politically for someone who's done this? And the answer is, have you seen the nasty tweets there's been? It's like, on some level, it's also, I think Chloe's saying, without saying all outcomes are on the table, it's also saying we don't have to correct her, the public's doing that. I don't know if I'm quite sold that that's such a good messaging, Chewie.
I don't know. If Julianne was completely unrepentant about what she did,
yep,
absolutely, strip her of the portfolio.
Yep.
But the instant adjustment, the instant owning of it in the media, I think when you look at the political landscape, and remember, there's been studies into this, that how toxic the debate around our MPs, and especially our female MPs, has got, that I think this is a really valid point, is that there is a punishment that is instantly paid by a female in the Green Party for having a human reaction. There's comments in our chat tonight about how Chloe is too emotional, and I think that this is a comment that needs to come forward more. We lost Kiri Tapualan, we've lost Golriz, we've lost several other MPs through an absolute hounding from an unhinged public. So I think when she's mentioning this as far as a price to be paid for her poor decision and her actions, I agree with her. This is part of it.
Side note here, and can I just say at the moment, the chat is with you, Chewie, so great. Do you think the reason Golriz actually resigned was because of how the public treated her? Or do you think, in all honesty, someone can get accused of shoplifting, as I don't think anything's been proven yet, and remain as an MP?
No. No, she went. What I'm talking about is in Golriz's case, you have a very high profile female Green MP.
Yep.
That has been instantly disliked by the hard right of the politically motivated public.
Of course.
Who is dealing with what is it? She's got MS, dealing with a long-term debilitating illness, and to have that constant pressure of her job and the comments around her and everything that she does and everything that she is.
Yep.
I think that had a mental toll, and when you break like that, who knows what you're going to do? And it could be drinking too much and deciding to drive. It could be shoplifting from boutiques. That sort of thing. I'm just like, this is what happens. And if you grind out all the humours, the people that are passionate about the things that they take into Parliament, and you hold them to the standard where they can't have emotions, they can't be passionate, and we let people comment on them in such vicious, like the stuff around Golriz is evil.
Yeah, I agree.
There are some people in the social media comments that are evil with how they talk about her. They broke a person and they took glee in it, and they still are. And so this is why I'm glad that Chloe's mentioned it, is look, there is a cost to what she did. It's not necessarily Green Party process. And maybe we don't add to it.